How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Enclave. We are here again today with Module 6, Ammunition for the Self-Loading Rifle or Carbine. This section, I think of all the sections other than the law, of course, because we've been skipping it, is the most repetitive section. In fact, the cartridge they use for demonstration is identical to the cartridge used in the self-loading rifle manual. It is also a PMP like casing. I mean, it's literally all the same. But nevertheless, we are going to go through them. So we start off on page 36 with an introduction of the components of a cartridge. So, something you may need to know is in the introduction, this complete assembly is known as a cartridge, civilian term, or a round, military term. Either term is correct. That is true. Sometimes in the tests they will ask you to name the civilian term or the military term or both. But if you know that the civilian term is a cartridge and the military term is a round, you're aces, 2 points just like that. So let's move on. Primer. Now, as I've said before, you do not need to have memorized these entire paragraphs. You just need to know, in essence, the first sentence of each component. So the primer is a small metal cup containing an explosive compound. That is it. As I've said before, you can shorten that down even further and say that the primer is a small explosive. Simple as that. If you'd like to go further, you can call it an explosive cup. Easy peasy. Powder. The powder burns, creating expanding gases. That is all you need to know about that. These expanding gases create pressure buildup, which will push the bullet down the barrel out towards the target. You can know that. It would be good to know that. But once again, except for when it comes to the firing sequence, you don't need to know all these paragraphs. And even then, the firing sequence is an abridged version of this. Moving on to the case. A brass, steel or copper cylinder closed at one end. Its function is to hold all other components together. It is the only component that can be reused or reloaded. So, I just say a brass cylinder that holds all the other components of the cartridge. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Bullet. The bullet is usually made of lead covered with a copper jacket. Meh. This is what's important. The bullet is the only component that leaves the barrel and strikes the target. That is the most crucial part of that section right there, is understanding that the bullet is the only component to travel down the barrel, leave the firearm at the barrel, I suppose, and strike the target. So that is pretty much that. Moving on to the next page, we have the firing sequence. So, squeezing the trigger on the firearm will cause the firing pin to strike the primer. The primer explodes, sending a flash or flame, you can use either word, into the case. The flame ignites the powder burns, creating pressure buildup behind the bullet. The pressure buildup will push the bullet down the barrel and out towards the target. So that is something you are going to want to be able to explain. You don't need to know word for word, but you need to know primer ignites powder. Powder expands, pushes out bullet. Bullet leaves casing, travels towards target. You basically need to know how each part interacts with the next. And if you can basically explain that, you're aces for a way. No problem. Cartridge identification. Now this again is the same sort of thing we've had before, except for with the shotgun cases. But as you can see right there, we have a head stamp. So that PMP is the manufacturer, and that 30-06 or 30-06, whatever, is the caliber. So that is a 30-06 Springfield, or 30-06. I know in the States they call it aught or whatever, but yeah, so that is a 30-06 Springfield PMP casing. That is important to understand how to read and identify ammunition, be it for any firearm. Misidentification of ammunition can be deadly. So it is something that you absolutely need to understand. It is something you need to be able to do. If nothing else, if you carry a 9mm Luger or 9mm Parabellum, whatever, you need to know how to identify what isn't that. So even if you can't identify everything else, you need to know what isn't the round that should be in your firearm. Because, yeah, you can make some mistakes. But yeah, that is pretty much that. If you feel like I left something out, please feel free to comment down below or ask me a question down below. If you learned anything or enjoyed the episode in any way, please feel free to like, comment, share and subscribe. If you have more time, maybe check out another video here at the end. Otherwise, peace out.